Hi friends, once again welcome to my costing YouTube channel. Today let us solve one problem on process costing. First I will read the problem. Product X is obtained after it passed through three distinct processes. The following cost information is available for the operation. Materials, total material cost is 5625, and for process A it is 2600, process 1 it is 2600, and process 2 it is 2000, and process 3 it is 1025, and total direct wages are 7330, and for process A direct wages are 2250, and for process 2 direct wages are rupees 3680, and for process 3 it is rupees 1400, and production overheads are rupees 7330. 500 units at rupees 4 per unit were introduced in process 1. Production overheads are absorbed as percentage of direct wages. The actual output and normal loss of respective processes are: process 1, the total output of process 1 is 450 units and normal loss is 10%, and scrap of normal loss is sold at rupees 2 per unit. And for process 2, the output is 340 units and normal loss is 20%, and the scrap of process 2 is sold at rupees 4 per unit. And process 3, the output is 270 units and normal loss of process 3 is 25%, and the scrap is sold at rupees 5 per unit. There is no stock or work in progress. Show 3 process accounts and abnormal loss and abnormal gain account. This is the problem. Let us see. Let us draw the process 1 account. Mainly make 2 columns, one debit side and credit side, and on debit side again make 4 columns, one particulars, then input, then cost per unit, then total cost. Similarly for credit side also make 4 columns, first one particulars, then output, then cost per unit, then total cost. Let us start with the input of 500 units in process 1 account. 2 units introduced, number of units are 500 and total cost is rupees 2000 and rate per unit is rupees 4 per unit. Then other expenses: 2 materials 2600, then 2 direct wages 2250, then 2 production overheads. It is shown as absorbed as percentage of direct wages, so after calculation it comes 2250. Then let us go for the normal loss. Normal loss of process A is 10% on the input. So input is 500 units of material in process A, then 10% of 500 units is equal to 50 units. Then this 50 unit of scrap is sold at rupees 2 per unit, and 50 units into rupees 2 per unit is equal to rupees 100. Then get the total of then output of process A is 450 units. So normal output is also 450, actual output is also 450. So there is no question of abnormal loss or abnormal gain. Remaining 450 units are to be transferred to the next process, that is process 2 account by transfer to process 2. 450 units, total amount is 9,000 and cost per unit is rupees 20. So 450 units at rupees 20 per unit is to be transferred to process 2 account. So let us go for process 2 account. First take the transfer from process 1 that is to process 1 account. Already we know it is 450 units at the rate of 20 per unit, total is rupees 9,000. Then add other expenses including material, that is 2 materials rupees 2,000, then 2 direct wages rupees 3,680, then 2 production overhead rupees 3,680. Then let us go for calculation of the normal loss. In process 2, the normal loss is 20% of the input. Input is 450 units in process 2. So 20% of 450 units is equal to 90 units. Then scrap of process 2 is sold at rupees 4 per unit. So 90 units into rupees 4 is equal to 360 rupees. Then get the total of debit side. Then let us have some calculations. First one, normal loss. I have already entered this, but for calculation it is 20% of input in process 2 account. So input is 450 units into 20 upon 100 is equal to 90 units. Then let us calculate the normal output. Normal output is equal to input minus normal loss. Input to process 2 is 450 units. Then 20% of 450 is equal to 90 units. So 450 units minus 90 units is equal to 360 units is the normal output. But actual output, third one, actual output is 340 units. Here the expected output is more, but actual output is less. So we expected 360 units of output in process 2 account, but we got only 340 units, means we got less than the expected units. How many units? That is 360 minus 340 is equal to 20 units. We got less, that is abnormal loss. Number 4, abnormal loss is equal to normal output minus actual output. Our normal output is 360 units, but actual output is 340 units, is equal to 360 minus 340 is equal to 20 units. 20 units is the abnormal loss. Now let us calculate the normal rate per unit. This is the rate common for the output of process 2 as well as for abnormal loss or abnormal gain if any. So normal rate per unit is equal to, take total of debit side minus total of credit side divided by normal output, because if there is any abnormal loss or abnormal gain, it should not be allowed to affect the normal process. So they are separately calculated. So normal rate per unit is equal to, total of debit side is 18,360 minus total of credit side is, total of debit side is 18,360 minus total of credit side is 360 divided by normal output, that is 360 units. So 18,000 minus 18,360 minus 360 is equal to 18,000 upon normal output, that is 360 units, is equal to rupees 50 per unit. Then number 6, value of abnormal loss is equal to normal rate per unit into abnormal loss units. Normal rate per unit is equal to rupees 50 into abnormal loss is equal to rupees 20 units is equal to 1000 rupees. So now record this in the process 2 account. By abnormal loss account, how many units? 20 units. Rate per unit is 50. So 20 units into rupees 50 per unit is equal to 1000 rupees. Then remaining are to be transferred to process 3 by transfer to process 3. That is, actual output is to be transferred to next process. 340 units at rupees 50 per unit. Total is 17,000. So get the total of process 2 account. Total is 450 units and total amount is 18,360. Then let's go for process 3 account. 360 units is the output of process 2 account. The same is to be transferred to process 3. Here the entry starts with to process 2 account. Total 340 units at the rate of 50 rupees. Total is 17,000. Then other expenses, 2 materials 1025, then 2 direct wages 1400, 2 production overhead 1400. Then go for normal loss. Normal loss of process 3 account is 25% of the input. Total input for process 3 account is 340 units. 25% of 340 is equal to 85 units. And this scrap of 85 units is to be sold at rupees 5 per unit, and total is 425. Now let's go for some calculations. As usual, normal loss input into 25% is equal to 340 units into 25 upon 100 is equal to 85 units. Then normal output is equal to input minus normal loss. Input is 340 units and normal loss is 85 units. So 340 minus 85 is equal to 255 is the normal output. Number 3, actual output 270 unit. Actual output of process 3 is 270 units. Here expected units were 255, but we produce 270 units. There is a gain. There is more production than the expected production. So that is called abnormal gain. Let us see how many units of abnormal gain is there. So abnormal gain is equal to actual output minus normal output is equal to 270 minus 255 is equal to 15 units is equal to the abnormal gain. Means abnormal gain units are 15 units, means we have produced more units, 15 units more than the expected units. Now let us calculate normal rate per unit. To calculate normal rate per unit, you get the total of debit side separately here because abnormal gain is there. So get the total of debit side separately and get the total of credit side totally. Total of debit side minus total of credit side divided by normal output. So total of debit side is 20,825 minus total of credit side is 425. 20,825 minus 425 is equal to 20,400 divided by normal output, that is 255 is equal to rupees 80 per unit. Normal rate per unit of process 3 is rupees 80 per unit. Now let us calculate the value of abnormal gain. So normal rate per unit into abnormal gain units. So normal rate per unit is 80 rupees per unit and abnormal gain units are 15 units. So 80 rupees into 15 units is equal to 1200. So let us go for recording this. So record this abnormal gain on the debit side. So 2 abnormal gain, 15 units. Rate per unit is rupees 80. 15 units into 80 rupees is equal to 1200. So actual output is to be transferred to the finished stock, because this is the last process. So where from the goods are to be transferred to finished stock account. So total units produced in process 3 is 270 unit and normal rate per unit is rupees 80. 270 units into 80 rupees is equal to 21,600. Get the total 355 units and total amount is 22,025. Even on the credit side, total is 355 and total amount is 22,025. With this we have completed all the 3 process accounts. Now we need to draw 3 more accounts, of which number 1 is abnormal loss account, number 2 is abnormal gain account, and number 3 is finished stock account. As you know, in process 2 we have abnormal loss. We have abnormal loss where we have recorded in that process 2 account credited by abnormal loss account. So here abnormal loss account debtor to process 2 account. To process 2, how many units? 20 units. And normal rate of process 2 is rupees 50. 20 units into 50 is equal to 1000 units. This 1000 unit is not the value of abnormal loss actually, because we sell the scrap of 20 units and we realize some amount, and that should be deducted from this. For that you enter by sale of scrap, that is 20 units, and in process 2 the scrap is sold at rupees 4 per unit. So 20 units into rupees 4 is equal to 80. 80 we get through sale of scrap, and remaining amount is the loss, abnormal loss, that should be transferred to costing profit and loss account. That difference of 920 is to be transferred to costing profit and loss account. So entries by transfer to costing P&L account rupees 920. Similarly, let us go for abnormal gain account. As you know, in process 3 there is a abnormal gain. 15 units of abnormal gain is there. So process 3 account debtor to abnormal gain account. Abnormal gain account credited by process 3 account. It should be recorded on the credit side of the abnormal gain account by process 3. Number of units are 15 and rate per unit is rupees 80. 15 rupees into 80 is equal to 1200 units. But this 15 unit into 80 is equal to rupees 1200 is not the gain, because if there would be a normal loss, there may not be any abnormal gain. If this is also a loss, then the units of abnormal gain were sold as scrap at rupees. In process 3, scrap is sold at rupees 5 per unit. 15 units into 5, 75 rupees might have been realized through the sale of scrap, but remaining amount 1200 minus 75 is the loss, get the total, and balance is 1125. That amount is to be transferred to costing profit and loss account. So this is abnormal gain account. Now last one, finished stock account, that is finished stock of process 3 is to be transferred to finished stock account. To process 3, total number of units 270 and cost per unit is rupees 80 and total is 21,600, and keep the total. Friends, thank you very much.